It's not about how hard you row, it's about in what boat you're in. This is what Warren Buffett said decades ago, but it's still pretty accurate, especially when starting out as an agency. I've been working with more than 80 agencies operating in different niches. And if you choose the wrong niche, the whole business can fail, no matter how good your offer or sales skills are. So in this video, I will rank the most common niches so you can choose the one that actually pays off in the future. So I just prepared the different niches here, and we have a list where we can rank them from avoid, bad, okay, good, or great. And we will start off with real estate, and this is the niche where I have the most experience in. In my opinion, real estate is a great niche to start because you have so many opportunities there, right? You can help them to get more leads, you can help them to nurture or qualify the leads that they already have and convert them into sales. And you can create so much impact with so less effort, because if you get them like to get one or two more listings or clients, they already make like 10 to 15K in extra revenue that you created with not much effort, right? It's the same with saving them time. So if you save them 5 to 6 hours, you can already get them another 2 to 5K on a monthly base with just saving them some time on recurring tasks, for example. So in my opinion, it's a really, really great niche. It pays off really well if you have a great service to sell to. And there are a lot of different services you can sell to real estate agents operating in high ticket areas. The next one is home services. And I would say this one is a good niche, especially when it comes down to recruiting. All right, so in different countries, home services have big problems with getting new employees and having enough staff in order to handle all the jobs that they have. So especially for recruiting services or for back-end stuff like automating which employees take the job, or the calendar management, or like lead nurturing and appointment booking, this is a great niche to go for since it's super, super in demand. The next one is gym. And to be honest, I would say it's bad or okay. Right? I would say it's a okay niche. Because I like different types of gyms, but it is really low ticket, right? So you have to get them a lot of new members in order to charge a high price, right? So if every member pays, for example, $50 per month, you have to get them, like 100 new members per month in order to make them 5K. So you can even charge like up to like 1 or 2K for it. So in my opinion, it's like too low ticket. It can work if you go for like lead generation, if you use like a high enough ad spend, or if you help them with like different strategies, campaigns on social media. But it's a niche that I would not go for when starting out, to be honest. The next one is solar. And I believe it's the same as with real estate. We also worked like in the solar niche before. And in my opinion, it's a great niche because, again, you can create a lot of impact with less effort, since every job is super, super high ticket and it pays really well, right? For the solar niche, services like lead generation, lead qualification, nurturing, appointment booking, and also lead database reactivation, so that you reactivate old leads from the database, usually work really well, because they also have a lot of old leads that you can reactivate, and every lead is worth a lot to them. And solar is as well in different countries super in demand, means you can also help them to get more employees to take on more jobs and handle all the jobs that they currently have. The next one is HVAC. And I would say it's a good to great niche. I would maybe even say it's a great niche because you have the same benefits here, right? It's high ticket. They have usually a lot of different services that they offer. So you can even niche down even further inside different services. And you can even combine those two niches. So if you don't want to niche down immediately, you can go for real estate, solar, and HVAC, since they are tightly connected. And the systems and services you provide usually work in all of them, since the mechanism behind those niches is the same. Additionally, many real estate company owners also own solar or HVAC companies, so you can combine them really, really well. The next one is construction. And I would say it's a good or like okay niche. I would say it's a good niche. You can also combine it with like real estate, solar, and HVAC. It can work really well, but usually the sales cycles are a bit longer. So I would say like it's an okay niche, to be honest, not even a good one. The next one is software companies and SaaS companies. And especially for beginners, I would say it's a really bad niche, since it's really, really hard to target those companies. And you have to find a company who is already profitable, and profitable companies usually already make so much money that the sales cycles are really, really long. And there are like, a lot of managers, a lot of CEOs who have a lot of knowledge about like the marketing, the business side of things. So it's really, really hard to sell something to them and also find and target them, since there's like no real data source you can use or like scraper you can use. So you have to find them manually, and then like you cannot even cold call them. So you have to reach out to them on like email or like text-based messages. So I believe it's not a really good niche for starting out. Then we have agencies. This means like marketing agencies. So for example, SEO agencies, marketing, AI agencies, recruitment agencies. And I would say it's an okay niche because you can really, really easy target them. And there are a lot of different types of agencies you can work with. And you can help them to get more clients, to, again, like book appointments, maybe even help them close those clients, and also provide systems or services that they can white label and use to sell to their own clients. The big problem that you have with this niche, and the reason why it's only an okay niche in my opinion, is that marketing agency owners usually have a lot of knowledge, and they believe that you cannot really help them, especially when you're starting out, right? And especially when they're providing like AI services or like lead generation by themselves, there's usually no reason to hire another agency to do so, because they can just do it in-house, basically. There are a lot of good reasons to hire another agency like you for this, but it's really hard to convince them and show them the benefits when starting out. So I would say it's like an okay niche. The next one is dentists. And this depends on your product, right? What works really, really well in the dentist niche are, for example, voice agents, because the dentist niche is usually super, super busy and it's really hard to get the CEO on the phone. It also depends a bit on the country. So in different countries, dentists earn more than in other countries. But I would say it's an okay niche. I would say like a bad niche, to be honest, because it is really hard to target the CEOs. Usually they're not really active on Instagram and Facebook. You cannot cold call them because you won't get them on the phone. So you have to reach out to them via email. And since many agencies already go for this niche, there are already pretty burned before. So I would avoid this niche only if you know like some local companies, if you know some dentists. It can work, especially, as I said, like with backend automations and voice agents. On the other side, you have to take care of a lot of laws when it comes down to working with like medicine data. So I would not go for like dentists when starting out. The next one is travel agencies. In my opinion, it's kind of like a dying niche. It's not so growing anymore as it was a couple of years ago. And I would say it's also like a bad niche, right? Because they are also like pretty hard to target, in my opinion. They usually work with B2C companies, B2C persons, B2C clients. Means the only like services I have in mind would be like lead generation, as with other company, and backend automations or like voice agents. But as I said, like the niche is dying a bit, and clients are usually not even high ticket anymore. So I would also avoid this when starting out. The next one are hotels. And in my opinion, it's a good to okay niche. I would say it's a good niche because especially bigger brands and bigger hotel chains and like companies usually have a lot of work regarding manual processes, maybe even like lead generation. So if they're like in really, really good areas, lead generation or recruitment. And science, you only need to get them 1 to 5 really, really high ticket clients or like spenders. You can create a lot of value inside this niche and also target it pretty easily. So I would say it's a good niche for starting out, but it also depends a bit on the service. In this niche, again, voice agents for booking and appointments can work really, really well. The next one is e-commerce. And I would say it's a niche that I would completely avoid when starting out, right? Because it is super, super hard to target e-com stores because you cannot find them in any registry. You have to find them manually, and then you can only reach out to them via email. They get a lot of emails already from like support and requests. Means it is really, really hard to reach them. And if you reach them, it is also really hard to convince them. Since e-commerce brands usually have a lot of knowledge when it comes down to like marketing, AI automations, and stuff like this. So again, it's a really, really hard sell when starting out. The next one is driving schools. And in my opinion, this is a really, really underrated one. So I would say it's a really, really great niche because every student is super, super high ticket. And the usual like target group of driving schools are people between like 15 and 20, let's say. Means Facebook ads or like automations which connects the students with the right drivers and teachers can work pretty well, since every student pays between like 1 and 5K, depending on the country. And you can also target their target group really, really easily with Facebook and Instagram ads, since they are like students and they are really active on Instagram and Facebook. So in my opinion, one of the most underrated niches ever. And this is the niche I would maybe even go for when starting out again. The next one is accounting firms. I would say it's a bad niche, right? Because again, it's a really, really professional niche. And they have like a lot of managers, a lot of like CEOs and other people you have to talk to and you have to convince in order to move forward. And it's something that I would, not recommend you when starting out. Really, really hard to close, and also really, really big sales cycles. The next one is cleaning companies. It's a bit of like an overlap with home services, so I would also say it's a good niche. They are usually only charging high retainers when it comes down to like B2B. So I would look for cleaning companies that go for like B2B brands, and also help them to either get more jobs, get more employees, or automate the backend and connect the employees with the right jobs and stuff like this. And this can work really, really well if you go, for example, for cleaning companies who work with hotel brands also. The next one is beauty and aesthetic. I would say this is an okay niche. It's not a niche that I would go for, especially because you have really, really big laws when it comes down to like handling the medicine information and data. But it can definitely work out, since many beauty brands also have like high ticket products, and you can also help them to upsell people who, for example, go for like an aesthetic appointment and upsell them into some beauty and aesthetic products afterwards. So it can work well, but usually not a niche I would go for. The next one is event and wedding. So people who actually manage and like plan the events and weddings. So I would say it's a good to great niche. I would say it's a good niche because you can pretty easily target them. You can pretty easily reach out to them via phone. Usually they're like solopreneurs, so you can just call them. And at the end of the day, their services are really high ticket. So you can also create a lot of impact with only getting 1 or 2 clients per month. And you can also help them to automate a lot of stuff, automate their like appointment booking process, their voice mail or like voice agents, and go from there. The next one is the automotive niche. And I would say it's also a good to great niche. And I would even say it's a great niche, I would say, because there are a lot of different opportunities inside. You have like car detailers, you have like companies like dealers who like sell cars. And it can work well, especially if you work with automotive services and companies who target other B2B brands, or for example, dealerships who target people who want to lease or like buy a car, right? Because usually they have a lot of good testimonials and reputation that you can use and leverage for example, running ads for them. And it's also a super high ticket niche, which works pretty well in my opinion, especially in European countries and the US. And therefore, I would say it's a great niche. Next one is restaurants and cafes. And I would say it's a niche that you should either avoid, or it's a bad niche. I would even say it's a niche that you should avoid in the beginning because it's way too low ticket, right? Like every customer is only worth, I don't know, like 50 to like maximum 100 USD. Means you need to get them a lot of clients, or you need to save them a lot of time in order to make it profitable for them. So it's not really something where you can charge a lot of money for it. I always recommend to charge like high retainers to provide a lot of value and then create a lot of client testimonials while charging much money for it. So restaurants and cafes is something I would definitely not go for when starting out. The next one is coaching and consultants. This depends a bit on the coach, but I would say it's a it's an okay to bad niche, especially like business coaches are like a really bad niche because it is really, really hard to target them and also really, really hard to convince them since they usually coach other people how to do business. And they won't be really happy if you give them some recommendations and if you want to help them to automate stuff and stuff like this. So fitness coaches, for example, can work pretty well, especially if they have a big online presence, which you can leverage and you can use to, for example, handle their like DMs and help them to convert those people into clients and appointments. But usually I would also stay away from this when starting out. The last one is info products. Means, for example, memberships, course, or like any kind of like info product owners. And I would say it's also a niche that you should either avoid or not really good to go into when starting out. And I would even say it's like a bad niche, right? You can go for it, it can work. But at the end of the day, it is really hard to target them. It is really hard to convince them since they usually also have a lot of knowledge. And it is really hard to do everything for them, especially when starting out and you don't know how to do email marketing, how to run ads, stuff like this. For info products, you don't need to have like one skill. You need to have a lot of skills in order to make them profitable. So again, in my opinion, not a niche I would go for. And here we just finished the whole table. This is the whole overview. So my opinion, e-commerce and restaurants are niches you should definitely avoid because they are way too low ticket and you cannot really target them and it's hard to convince them. And the niches that I would go for is like real estate, solar, HVAC, driving schools, and automated services. Because all of them are high ticket, you can create a lot of impact with less effort, with, for example, getting them new clients. If you only get them 1 or 2 new clients or like hot leads per month, you can already make them super profitable while charging a high retainer for it. And you can also create a lot of impact with, for example, saving them time or making processes smoother. Right. In addition, most of them are tightly connected. So you can, when starting out, you can even go for real estate, solar, and HVAC as a combination and then niche down later on. And then you can even niche down even further inside the solar niche, for example, if you want to. So this is how I would rank all of them. I'm super curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.